Hey, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk About Things and Stuff, where we talk about things and also stuff. I'm your friendly neighborhood youth guy, Matt Parker, and this is my good friend, Caitlin.
Heyo.
How you doing today, Caitlin?
I'm alright.
Doing
I
okay?
just made some banana bread at home.
Ooh, yum.
So I'm ready to eat that when I get home.
Okay, so you're ready to go right now. You're like,
Yeah.
let's get through this. Come on.
I was waiting for it
Let's
to
get
cool,
home.
so this is the time for it to cool right now.
Okay, when you make banana bread, do you use like super ripe bananas, or do you let them be a little bit green?
I mean, I go for as ripe as I can.
Like if they're mushy, like brown and mushy, is that too ripe, or?
No, I mean, they recommend the more ripe the better. But, I mean, I usually go to where it's like half and half yellow, half brown.
Okay.
That's usually like the earliest I'll take them. So, I just get impatient sometimes.
Right.
With waiting for them to be the right amount of ripe.
I prefer just a little bit green banana. Like, if it's got some brown spots on it, I'm like, that's a little iffy.
Okay.
If it's a texture thing for me, when they get so ripe that they're like mushy, then I like it to be a little firm, you know, like there to be a little resistance when I bite into my banana, and maybe even just a little bit of a twang, like a bitter twang to it. Is that the right word?
That's different than like cooking with them versus eating them.
That's true.
So, I mean, when it comes to eating them, I'll eat them like how you do.
Yeah.
But when it comes to baking with them, you want to wait the longer.
Okay.
Like as long as you can.
All right. Do you make banana pudding too?
No, I've never made that.
Okay, banana pudding, I like my bananas to be green. Like if they're mushy, like the pudding, I want to know that I'm not eating pudding, I'm eating a banana. Like if I'm eating pudding and I bite into a banana and I can't tell if it's pudding or banana, I'm done. Same thing with the Nilla wafers. I want the Nilla wafers not to be mushy. I want them to be crisp and, you know.
So do you use the Nilla wafers to dip or just like...
Oh, you know how you line it up with the whipped... Oh, you've never made it, so you don't know. You put layers of pudding and cream cheese and banana and then Nilla... You might do a layer of Nilla wafers, too, in the lasagna of banana pudding. Or you put Nilla wafers all around the outside and on the top. And that's my way. Of course, I don't do the cooked banana pudding. I do like the cold kind of banana pudding. But now we're off banana bread.
Yeah.
And we're now on banana pudding. So
you took us there.
So have you tasted your banana bread?
I mean, I've made this recipe before, but I haven't tasted this batch yet.
Oh, so you don't know if it's any good?
No.
You should let me know.
Okay.
When you finally do eat it. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, what are you eating right now? That's kind of our first question for you guys. Drop it in the comments, or shoot us a text, or post it on your socials. What are you eating right now? That's kind of how Instagram started. It's like I'm gonna take pictures of my food or my coffee mug and book and post it on Instagram, and that's
really popular to do.
Is it still that way?
Absolutely.
I haven't been on Instagram for a while. I've been busy, and I've been a much happier person. Not being on Instagram or Facebook. I haven't missed it. In fact, I've quite enjoyed not reading and looking at Instagram and Facebook. So what are you eating right now? Shoot us a picture or drop it in the comments, whatever it is. We'd love to hear about it. All right. We've got some serious things to talk about here in just a minute. But first, let's talk about what we're consuming in the cultural arena. What do you got?
So I've discovered on my Spotify that because they curate recommended playlists based on the listening you have made or you've done already. Well, they now have what they call a Daylist, and so Daylist.
Okay.
And it changes periodically throughout the day, like morning, afternoon, evening, and it'll shape it on the trends of each day of the week and each time of the day.
Okay.
So, like, for whatever reason, on this Tuesday, I have Romantic Belter Tuesday afternoon.
Romantic Belter?
Yes.
Okay, where's my phone? All right, there it is. All right, so if I look up my Spotify I see Daylist. Okay. Oh, there it is. There's my Daylist. So my Daylist right now, For the Soul Christian Folk, Tuesday afternoon. That's awesome, because that's usually what I'm listening to at this point of the day.
Yeah.
Pretty much every day, because I'm reading or studying or doing some work. That's really cool. So it's like AI generated then?
I would assume so.
Based on what you've been listening to?
Yeah, and it changes every, I don't know how many hours. Because like it's showing that it's supposed to update like around 4:30.
Yeah, that's what mine says.
So.
Next update at 4:31.
So.
Wow. This is amazing. AI is good for a lot of things.
It's also really scary.
It's going to take over the world and kill us all. But for now, haven't you ever seen Terminator? I mean, Rise of the Machines, man. Or The Matrix, or pretty much any sci-fi movie involving robots. I, Robot.
That movie traumatized me as a kid.
Seriously?
Yes.
Yeah. Right? Okay. So that brings me to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because sentient Chromicons and LMDs, life something. Anyway, they're like lifelike. They're not robots really. They're like lifelike duplicates of a person. Like they upload people's brains into these machines, and so they take on their personality. They take on their memories. They have they show emotions, although there's still some conversation in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. about whether they are actually experiencing emotions because they're machines, right?
Yeah.
But this is one way, and I talked about this before when I talked about going back through the series Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is one way that they can pretty much do whatever the heck they want to do. They can kill anybody and bring them back. And they can have like 3 of the same person in the room at the same time.
Oh, goodness.
And it doesn't matter. And they break all of the rules of storytelling, but I still love it. But anyway, I finally got to the last season. It's the last season of the series, and it's really I think it might be the second best of all of the seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? Because they've taken you know how WandaVision, did you watch WandaVision?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay, so WandaVision took they did show by the decade, right? So they would I think they started in like the 40s or something like that, and then worked their way up to the 2000s. Well, they're kind of doing that, except they're doing time travel, and so it's like the whole messing with the timeline thing, and so they're doing all that stuff. And so they're also free to do whatever the heck they want to do, changing the timeline, and so it's really frustrating sometimes, but it's actually really, really good, and highly recommend. It can get bloody, and like in the 80s era that they've been in, they kind of leaned into the 80s horror genre a little bit, like the robot horror, like they're going to come kill you all kind of thing. And so it's pretty good. It's pretty good. They get really creative, and I'm into it. So highly recommend. Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 7, I think, is where they ended. 6 or 7, I can't remember. But I finally made it all the way through. Yeah. So it's been months of watching. So yeah, good times. All right, so each week we talk about something pulled from the headlines, and usually it's something humorous or entertaining or something that sparks a conversation. But this week it's something really serious and heavy. It's the thing that's been dominating the headlines. If you've been paying any attention at all, you've probably heard about Israel's war with Hamas. And it's just a real tragedy of things unfolding in Israel right now. And if you haven't heard about it, Hamas over the weekend from the Gaza Strip in southern Israel launched an attack into Israel, killed a bunch of people, pillaged villages, and took hostages, and they're threatening to kill the hostages if Israel retaliates, and And so it's just a really horrific scene right now, and Israel is fighting back. The question I have for you is, what do you think is Israel's right response? Do you think they have a right to attack Hamas for that thing?
I mean, I haven't been through any kind of war or intense moment like this.
Yeah.
And so I would not be an expert on the right answer. But I feel like, I mean, if you've been, there's always been the, like, rule of, if you get attacked, you have the right to attack back.
Right.
And doesn't mean it's always right, but being that necessarily you didn't start it.
Yeah.
You could try it in a way to try and defend yourself.
Yeah.
That you could attack back. But would it be the smartest thing to do? Definitely not always.
Right.
So
maybe not. You just don't feel like you have all the information you need to make a judgment on that. That's a good answer. I like that answer. There are tons of people who are coming down on, they should like wipe them out, and then others who are like, well, Israel were the original aggressors to begin with, and the Palestinians are just like defending their homes and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of people talking, and I think would be better to take your position here. You don't know, like we don't know exactly what's going on, and Israel and the Palestinians have this long and complicated history. A couple of things that I am clear on, though, and I've heard, and I've been reading a lot about this over the last few days. First, that even if Israel, were treating the Palestinians poorly, and all of that, that does not justify the mass murder and rape and pillaging of civilians. Doesn't matter, well, mostly doesn't matter what you do. That does not give you the moral authority to just go in and do whatever the heck you want to do, just because you're bitter that about this other thing that's happened. It's that whole two wrongs don't make a right kind of thing. Even if Israel did all that stuff, I think that condemning Hamas's actions, regardless of what you think about Israel's position in that whole situation is, condemning Hamas's actions in this moment is the right thing. In no uncertain terms, whoever caused this stuff to happen needs to be brought to justice. That's my feeling. I mean, you might think a little bit different on that. But another thing that I've heard is that it's like, this is a sign of the end times. This is it. Jesus is coming back, and we're gonna see the end times. The apocalypse has come upon us. Probably not. I think that it's a fool's errand to try to layer like the Book of Revelation over this event, because for one thing, similar events, maybe not as bad as this, similar events have happened over and over and over the last 100 years, almost 80 years, I guess, since Israel took over that land in 1948, I think. And stuff like this happens periodically, and so it would be a fool's errand to try to layer the Book of Revelation over what happened this weekend and say, oh, this is definitely it. This is the sign. This is Jesus coming back. So that's my thing. All right, but it seems like these people from the Gaza Strip are assuming that they're in the right because of all of this stuff that they have experienced in the past. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt that you have the right to do something bad, maybe even evil, because you have experienced something bad? Do you feel justified to do something you know is wrong just because it's in response to something wrong that somebody else has done? Have you ever felt like that? Love to get your comments in the comments section, or you can text or post however you choose to do that. Right. So another thing that we can talk about. Why don't you tell us about it, Caitlin?
So I haven't dug deeply on this, but it's come up on my TikTok feed and other social media feeds of mine. this girl, Riley Gaines. She's a former college swimmer from Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And she is advocating against trans women and trans athletes and having them in the same space as a regular, as a...
Like a cisgender.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For the genetics and biologics are different. And so recently she had put out attempts to make October 10th National Real Women's Day. For there's a difference between a trans woman and a cisgendered woman.
Okay.
And for that, she is trying to separate those in sports. She wanted, in that we have an International Women's Day, she wanted to have something that was for just XX chromosomes. So with October 10th being
10 XX.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I get the connection there.
And so any organization or corporation, whatever, she went through to try and make a national day, like, you make a National Pizza Day.
Right.
They all declined her for reasons of, they could receive some serious backlash for not being with everything that society is trying to support of, making everyone equal and all that. And so.
All right. How do you feel about that?
I've always been conflicted with anything with the LGBT community. For, in my generation, we, or at least majority of us, have been the ones to push for the equality and the support of everyone being who they are.
Right.
And to, accept them and love them and whatever. But I'm like, there's another part of me, I'm like, that's not exactly how we're made. We're not made to be a man turning into a woman.
Okay.
Or a man or vice versa. And so I'm like, it's the biblical side of me. I'm like, that's not necessarily what I was taught and what I know.
Sure.
But then at the same time, I don't want to be the person who's like, oh, I don't agree with this, and come off as hating those people.
Right.
When I just don't agree with the choices they've made.
Right. So from a certain perspective, the biblical idea is that God created us in this way, male and female,
Mm-hmm.
and so I guess the terminology would be a biblical sexual ethic comes into conflict with our cultural situation.
Yes.
Where we have people who feel trapped in the wrong body and genuinely have gender dysphoria and have all of these feelings. So how do we as believers who hold to a biblical sexual ethic actually engage this conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously Riley Gaines is feeling some pushback, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that she's like going about this in the wrong way, or maybe too combative, or like what do you think the issue is there?
I don't know. I know she's the one of the most outspoken people on this topic in her position of how she feels.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to stick out because there's not a lot of people that are willing to put their opinion out like she is. Because she's got the platform and she's got all of this. And so at times it can seem intense of how she's, going about talking about her feelings. Like she shared her experience with a swimmer named Leah Thomas, who is a transgender woman.
Okay.
Who has competed and won against Riley, and since then that's kind of what started off on that whole her push for what she is going for, what she's been advocating for. And so it definitely seems intense for someone like me who is like non-confrontational and I just want to go with the flow, like kind of go stay in the background, just deal with it, like work with it.
Yeah.
And so she's making her voice heard.
Right.
As best she can.
Yeah.
And I'm no expert on the right way to do it, because there's right ways and wrong ways to do it, and you're going to get attention one way or the other.
So it feels like there's like a big question mark. What is the right way to have this conversation in a way that is graceful, and at the same time we hold to what we believe and we feel is true, but approach it in a grace-filled way, right? And there's tons of cultural conversations going on right now.
Absolutely.
In political terms, it's the culture wars, and one side is like yelling at the other side, and it's like this huge argument going on, and nothing seems to be actually getting done, and nobody seems to be swaying anybody else. But it's like this conversation needs to happen, probably, right?
Absolutely, it does.
Right. So I think this is a question that we can have, that we can answer together. How do we talk to our friends about something that they might disagree with us about, in a way that doesn't shut down the conversation, and also holds on to some form of biblical idea, some sort of foundational truth kind of thing, and so I'm up in the air too. I am I'm not sure how to have this conversation. It's one of those things that I am like a graceful guy, I hope, but I also have these understandings of the way life works, and so this whole thing. One thing I'm quite sure of, having a conversation about biblical ideas, yelling at each other in public is not the right way to do it. One thing that I'm confident in and convinced of deep to my core is that the right way to have a conversation about these kinds of things is walking alongside of somebody, entering into a relationship, engaging with them, loving a person, and meeting them where they are, and letting God handle the whole life change thing. That's not our job in my mind, and so I'm actually not sure it's our job to convince somebody of how wrong they are, as believers. And so if that's kind of our goal, then I think we're probably now Riley Gaines is in a different kind of situation because she feels that it's unfair in this thing that she's competing in. She feels it's unfair, and I don't know what evidence there is for her and against her, but it's an interesting conversation.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, drop your questions, comments, compliments into the comment section, and we'll interact with you there. We'd love to hear from you if there's anything that we've talked about, especially the heavy stuff that you'd like to engage with us on. Be sure to shoot us a DM, and we'll be glad to engage with you that way. All right. Well, thanks for joining us for Let's Talk About Things and Stuff, where we talk about things and also stuff. And we'll see you again next time.